Packard Deluxe 8 Convertible Sedan by Dietrich 1930. Like other manufacturers at the top of the market, Packard had been developing ever larger and more luxurious models throughout the 1920s. After the 1929 stock market crash, this meant that Packard was a manufacturer of opulent and expensive models that became increasingly hard to sell as the Depression deepened. In 1930, Packard sold just 28,386 cars, down dramatically from 1929. As sales plummeted, these grand automobiles were seldom seen. They receded into the secret carriage houses of the very rich, making them all the more rare and desirable today. In 1923, Packard had moved away from the annual model change adhered to by other manufacturers and introduced the series concept, which did not necessarily follow the calendar year. Some series lasted for close to 2 years, while others had a shelf life of a mere 7 months. Packard automobiles manufactured in 1930 are considered part of the 7th series. This series is especially attractive to collectors, as it was the last series to use piano spoke wire wheels that provide a true classic look. These lovely wheels were enhanced by a new fender line that ran from the crown of the fender to the running board, creating a single, beautiful, sweeping arc. Today, it is the epitome of classic elegance as it existed shortly before streamlining came to dominate automobile design. Other 7th series styling cues included fender-mounted parking lamps, new rounded headlamps, 3 lens tail lights, dual glove compartments, and an adjustable driver's seat. On the technical side, new features were introduced such as Watson stabilizer shock absorbers, new gauges, thermostatic radiator shutters, a centralized Bezier chassis lubrication system, 4-speed transmission, shatterproof laminated windows, and a hypoid rear axle. While the 106 bhp peak engine power at 3,200 revolutions per minute may not seem overly high, a massive 350 plus pounds per foot of torque were available to the driver, providing plenty of low-down grunt. Packard offered 3 7th series models for 1930, the 733 Standard 8, the 740 Super 8 on a 140 inches wheelbase, and the imposing yet so very graceful 745 with Super 8 power on a 145 inches wheelbase. The LWB 745 was the lowest production model, accounting for only 3,007 of the more than 28,000 cars produced. Numerous body styles were available to satisfy the requirements and desires of virtually any buyer. Packard chassis continued to be made available for the trade, and the rich could commission coach builders to create unique designs. Born in 1894 in the Bronx, Ray Dietrich was employed by the famous coach builder Brewster in 1909, where he met Tom Hibbard. The two left Brewster in 1920 to form LeBaron, which quickly became one of the most fashionable coach builders of its day. In 1923, Hibbard left for Paris with Howard Dutch Darren to found Hibbard and Darren, another legendary coach builder. That same year at the New York Salon, Dietrich had first made contact with Edsel Ford and Packard president Alvin McCauley. In the ensuing years, as LeBaron began making custom boats for Lincoln and Packard, Dietrich forged close ties in Detroit. In 1925, he was finally headhunted by Alan Sheldon of the Murray Body Company, who financed the setup of Dietrich Incorporated in Detroit. The rest, as they say, is history. In the following years, Ray Dietrich used his incredible talent as a designer of fine detail, and his supreme sense of proportion to create what are now regarded as possibly the most exquisitely beautiful American designs of the classic era. While Dietrich worked for a number of Detroit manufacturers, within this exalted group of ultimate automobiles, the so-called Dietrich Packards reigned supreme. The 7th Series Deluxe 8 was Packard's top offering for 1930, and it was available in 11 semi-custom and individual custom factory bodies. Due to the low production numbers, few examples remain today. The length of the chassis provided one of the last truly outstanding platforms for custom coach builders to create designs in the classic idiom. For collectors today, the 1930 model remains especially coveted as Packard moved the cowl forward for 1931. This created more space inside the body and increased passenger comfort. But as always, comfort came at a price. and the result was that the seemingly endless hood of the 1930 models was shortened by 5 inches. This changed the appearance and balance of the finished car dramatically, and as a consequence, the long hood and near-perfect proportions of the 1937 series remain highly collectible today. Chassis 179,463 is the epitome of the perfectly balanced 7th Series cars. It combines superbly engineered underpinnings with a custom body designed by one of the greatest designers in the history of the automobile, the legendary Dietrich. Every line is simply exquisite, and the car is ready to be enjoyed in equal measure by the owner and enthralled spectators at any concours he may care to attend.